Good morning, everybody. The sun is out, super exciting, smidge on the chilly side, however. Today, 5 exercises. One's to kind of get things kick-started and to build some awareness in some of the muscles we're trying to target, and 2 of the other exercises. So, enjoy. This one gets a smidge uncomfortable, but really, anyway, I'll give you a full warning when we get to the movements we need to be wiry up. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is an activation or kind of a turning on of our glute muscles, biggest muscles in the body, right? Super important to turn those on, helps our back health, right? Especially if we're doing a lot of sitting, we can kind of shut those guys down. So this is just to kind of remind everybody that there's work that should be getting done back there. All right, so you can take a band, you can take one of the circular bands and circle it around and put it up above your knees. You can take one of the bands with handles. Barring all of that, you can just use your own pressure of your hands on the outside edges of your knees. So what we're going to do is find enough tension so that when our feet are hip distance apart, there's already a little need to push the knees to the outside. Then we're going to set our posture, shoulders back and down, crown of the head stacked, right? Brace, so air filling that whole cavity, right? Diaphragm pressed down. When you inhale, right, getting that full front and back. With all of that locked in, but still breathing, obviously, right? You're just going to squeeze the knees to the outside. Try not to move the feet and come back in. But when you come back in, don't let the band pull your knees all the way back in, right? Try to just come back to that neutral position. So we're going to do 5 with feet neutral, right? Keeping the torso locked in. Should feel like a pinch or a squeeze on the kind of outside part of the glute there. And then we're going to turn the toes out and do 5, right? Little hold on the outside. Again, not letting the knees collapse all the way in, just coming back to that hip distance. Once you've done 5 that way, you're going to turn the toes in, right? So we're not weight bearing here. So okay that we've got that internal rotation a little bit here. So it feels a little awkward to be pigeon toe, but go for it anyways. Different connection to the glute. And then same thing, right? So on this one, you want to think about pushing the weight slightly to the outside edge of that back heel, right? So that you keep the feet grounded. And same thing. So you'll notice it sort of subtly moves different parts of the glute medius, some of those other muscles on the outside edges of the hips. So 5, 5, and 5. If you've got enough tension on, that should be enough to get things a little bit birdie back there. If you need to up the reps because you don't have enough tension, right, just up the reps and do 8, 8, and 8. Just find one that works for you, right? So little sensation back there, but that's what we're shooting for. We're going to the upper body now, so we're going to do a dumbbell pullover. I'm going to use the ball as my bench, but again, you could lay across a stool, right, reach overhead. You could do a shorter range of motion laying on the floor. You can do, ideally, it's 1 dumbbell. I'm going to use 2 pressed together to get enough weight, which is a little bit trickier in terms of setup. So you want to rest. You want to rest your head and neck on the ball and make sure you have a good grip on your dumbbells, as you do not want to lose any teeth. So locking in the rib cage, keeping the glutes squeezed, let the weight come overhead and then pull back forward. So the core stays rigid. So part of the work here is not letting that back arch, right, more than the neutral arch that's already there. Arms and elbows can bend a little bit, but it's all about hinging through those latissimus and serratus muscles that run along the side of the back. So really squeezing back up. So I like to take a moment right here, right, to really get my shoulder blades back and down and squeeze everything, and then try to keep that connection as much as I can as I lower and squeeze back over. So dumbbell pullover. If you're using separate dumbbells like me, Make sure you keep them super squeezed together so you're not adding any potential risk to the shoulder capsule. All right, so next exercise, we're going to do a drop lunge. This is not an exercise for anybody that has bad knees. If your knees are good, fantastic. If you do have bad knees, just throw in a different variation on a split squat or a lunge, right? The basic one being for bad knees, right? Setting up in that split squat stance, you just rock back and forth, right? Just working range of motion over the kneecaps, especially if you've been sitting, right? Trying to work through getting that knee forward, that knee drive, right? And then pulling back. All right, but for those of you doing the drop lunge, we're going to stay single-sided. You can do this off a stair or a step, right? You can do this off a book. Just make sure the book's against the wall so that you don't, book doesn't slide around on you. All right, so one foot's up, right? You want to watch that toe, even on the back leg, slightly turned out. You're going to drop forward, down. Then you're going to think about loading this front heel, pulling back up. And when you pull back up, you want to get the standing leg back to straight, glute squeezed under. So dropping down, pulling back up. Try to control the landing so you can be in control of that lower knee position, right? So knee tracks gently out, pulling back up and in. So obviously, healthy knees needed because you're absorbing a fair amount of impact and you're actually getting a pretty good amount of work done in this back glute too, because once you've got that push up, the back glute is doing the squeeze and pull back up to the top of the movement. So same thing on the second side. Check the angle of that toe. Try and control your landing so you can be wary of that knee position. Good. And again, you can hold 2 dumbbells. One on either side, you could hold a dumbbell. Goblet style. Try not to have too much movement in the torso, right? Locking this in will drive all the focus into the leg. And you can really work on absorbing that impact and building that strength and stability above the knee. All right, so 10 and 10, 12 and 12, 8 and 8, the drop lunge. Next exercise we're going to do back to the upper body. We're going to do a single arm fly. We're going to vary our dumbbell position from what we did because of conventional flies we've been doing, right, with our palms stay neutral or in like this. So harder variation. We're going to keep our knees bent, so we're going to really focus on the movement of the upper body and not worry about what our lower backs and everything else is doing here. Still want to keep this locked in, but as I mentioned, we're going to hold the dumbbell so our palms are facing away from our torso. Right, we're going to lock in the shoulder. You can put a slight bend. Again, we have to make some modifications because we don't have all the little small incremental weights we're used to using, especially for things like flies. There's slightly more subtle movements, right? We're going to lock in that shoulder blade, round the opposite shoulder. Let the weight come out to the side, trying not to roll up here, trying to keep this locked in, and then squeeze back to the start. Do not worry about the range of motion. This is about feeling where you get that connection and then squeezing back up. If you're really locking that shoulder blade down on the working side, so in this case on my right side, if I'm locking my shoulder blade back and down, relocking it in and trying to keep it locked in as I squeeze back, then that chest muscle, that pectoral muscle, has no choice but to do the work because we're taking it out of the shoulder, right? So you don't want to be feeling this up high in that delt. You want to really be thinking about trying to connect and get it squeezed through the pec muscles. So holding the weight this way, obviously the physics of how the weight is versus weight on either side here versus the weight being stacked when we get out to the side of the movement makes this more challenging, right? So you want to do this variation with less weight than you would a conventional fly. And you want to think about taking the elbow out and back towards the ear. That will just get it tracking in the right angle. So making sure you control that weight down, locking in the shoulder, squeezing back, connecting back in. So 8 to 10, depending on your weight. If you're using super light weight, then you can really focus on that shoulder and maybe just slow down the movement so that as you're coming back in, you're really thinking about keeping the back of the body engaged as you squeeze the chest muscle toward the center line. All right, last exercise for the day. We're going to do a lateral band walk. We're going to do this a little bit differently than we might usually do this. So we're going to do it with the band actually tied around our legs versus underneath our feet. So it forces a different activation. So I'm going to take the band right above my knees and wrap it around a couple of times. So again, finding a tension, you may have to up the weight, lower the weight. You can use a circular band, wrapped a couple of times. Oops. All right, so enough tension that you've got to work a little bit. So you're going to sit down low, squeeze the knees out. Again, thinking about that first exercise, right? Torso locked in, you're going to stay low, step out to the side. When you step this leg in though, you're not going to let it come flying all the way in because of the tension. You're going to keep the tension and just make a small step in. So staying low, reaching out, right? Keeping an eye to your feet. Stay neutral, right? You can turn your toes out a smidge if you've got any knee stuff. But if you can, think about trying to keep the feet parallel to one another, right? And then straight out away from the body, perpendicular to the body. Good. So I cheated on that first round. I promise when I do my set, I'll do at least 10, right? So moving out to the side, 10 one way, obviously the same number back the other way. And that is it for the day. So hope everybody has a great day. Enjoy the sunshine, if not a temperature outside. And I'll see everybody tomorrow for another workout. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.